Hello guys, welcome back. So let's do some Halloween crafting. So we are going to start out with the little ghost, and most of these items you can find at Dollar Tree. I even saw some fabric they had the last time I went. So let's start on our little ghost. So I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting my fabric, and I didn't do them all the same. I kind of just did it all randomly, and whatever length they came out, that's just what they came out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my little dowels here, and I'm going to go ahead and glue them into my little circle foam before I close up my fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a bit of glue into my little hole here, and I am using a low temp glue gun just so it doesn't eat through my foam. And this fabric is a little bit on the thin side, so I did kind of double up around the circle just so the foam doesn't show through. And here I'm just going to go ahead and get a piece of lace and just tie it off. So I want to make my little ghost holding on to something. So I'm going to go ahead and add a piece of wire underneath the fabric. Just do one little twist, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to keep it in place. And then we'll fold the little edges of the wire in just so it doesn't poke through my fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the little blocks a coat of brown paint, and I'm going to wipe it right off. It's just going to act as a stain just so I don't leave the raw wood. I do want it a little bit darker, so that is what I'm doing here with the paint. I made a little hole with the drill, and I'm going to go ahead and stick my dowel right into that, and I did add a little bit of hot glue just to make sure it stays in place. So I have these little mini cloches that I got from the Goodwill bins, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it came from a Tim Holtz package, but I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is add a little hole to the bottom of the little cork that came with the cloche, and I'm going to go ahead and stick the little hand that's on my ghost right into the cork. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these little dry florals into the cloche, and I do add a little bit of hot glue, just a little drop to the back of the cork before I put my glass on, just to make sure that it is secure. And I did go into Amazon to check if these were Tim Holtz, and they actually are. They do have them on Amazon. I didn't purchase them from there. I did get them from the bins, but Dollar Tree has many other options that you can use if you want to make your ghost holding something. This is just what I had on hand. And I did go ahead and add a little button to the top of the lace and dovetail the ends. And now we just need to add on the face and we'll be all done. And for the face here, I'm just going to keep it very simple. Just do two little dots for the eyes and just a bigger little circle for the mouth, just keeping it simple, and that is it for this one. I also wanted to mention that I did add little pumpkins to the other two that I made. All I did here was add a little bit of glue to keep the two little hands together, and then I just added the pumpkin with some glue right on top of that. And here is the end result of these cute little ghosts. Next up, I'm going to create some little shadow boxes, and I'm going to go ahead and use this little skeleton that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start out by aging him up a little bit, and I have seen that there's several versions of this one. This is the only one that I found at my Dollar Tree. I may go back and check to see if I find the other two. So to age him up, I'm just going to add a little bit of antique wax, and I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it back, and that's just going to give it a little bit more aged look and not so bright. And I'm going to start out by adding a little background to the back of my box, and the drawer is actually from like a piece of furniture or something. I've had them in the garage for a long time, so I figured I'd finally do something with them. So I'm going to go ahead and give my cardstock a spray with this Elmer's adhesive, and that'll secure it to the back of my little drawer. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue to the bottom of my little skeleton here and put it right in the center of my little shadow box. Then I'm going to go ahead and use these little apothecary jars that I picked up at Dollar Tree. These were at Dollar Tree last year. I'm pretty sure they're going to have them again this year, which I hope I find more. I really enjoyed making these little boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and start by giving my little jars some drips of hot glue right on the top, just to give the illusion of something spilling over. Then I'm just going to paint right over that hot glue with some gold gilding wax. Then I'm going to just add a drop of hot glue to the bottom of my little jar and add it to my little box. Then I go ahead and add my other little jars, and for the smallest jar I just use the cork out of this one, which I took out so I can add these little dry florals, and I'm just going to reuse the cork right next to that little jar just so my smallest jar has something to sit on. So I did add some hot glue to the bottom of my little dry florals here, and then I just added them into the little jar, and that just keeps them in place. So once I get all my little jars glued down, I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue to the bottom of my box here. Then I'm just going to add some moss to the bottom. And I do go in pretty heavy with the moss in the beginning, but I do let whatever falls off come off, and I also pull whatever is loose off just so it doesn't have so much fallout. Then I'm just going to go ahead and add these little skulls to the top of the other two jars, and I actually think these are for jewelry making. They came like in a little jar set with other beads. I'm just going to use them for the top of my jars here. Then I'm just going to add this little cardboard sign to the top of my little shadow box, and that is it for this one. So I really enjoyed making that other shadow box, so I'm going to make a second one, and I'm basically doing the same steps. I'm going to go ahead and add some cardstock to the back of this little box using the same Elmer's glue. So I had these little skulls from Dollar Tree. I think these are from last year, and I'm pretty sure they have them this year. They're just a little bit more lighter, or like a gray color. So these here, I'm just going to go ahead and add some antique wax just to age them up a bit, just so they don't look so much like plastic. And I'm just going to immediately wipe that back using just a dry rag. I'm just going to kind of tap it because I don't want to wipe it completely off. I do want it to sit like in all the little crevices. Then I'm just going to add them to the corner of my box here, just adding some hot glue, and I am going to stack these right on top of each other. Then I'm also going to add another little jar with some dried florals to this little box. And these next few steps are pretty repetitive to what I did on the first shadow box, just gluing my bottles down, and then I'm adding some gilding wax to the hot glue drips I did on top of my little bottle. Then I'm just going to add this little poison sign that I got out of that same Tim Holtz pack, and I'm just going to glue it to the top of my little box. And just like I did the other little box, I'm going to add a little sign to the top of this one, and this one says the apothecary. Then I'm just going to create a little cauldron. This is the closest thing I had that was a good size to put in the center here. So I'm just going to create some little drips with the hot glue as well. So I'm going to be adding some little beads to the top of this, but just so I don't have to put too much beads, I'm just going to put some foam at the bottom to create some height. Then I'm just going to give it 2 coats of black paint, and as I did with the little jars, I'm also going to add some gold gilding wax to the drips. And I'm trying to avoid painting the bottom because I just don't want to have nothing that's gonna make my glue not stick correctly. So I want to do wood to wood just to make sure that it has a good bond. So that is why I didn't paint the bottom. So then I'm just gonna go ahead and add these beads to my little cauldron here. I'm gonna start with the round smooth ones. I do want the ones that have a little bit of shimmer to be on top. So I'm going to add some hot glue and attach it to my box, and then I'm going to go in with some moss as well on the bottom, and that is basically it for this one. Let me know what you guys think. So next up is this little box of books that sat in my booth for quite some time. So I brought them home and I'm just gonna make them some Halloween decor. So I'm gonna start out by giving this 2 coats of black chalk paint. Then I'm just gonna add this webbing type ribbon to the corners of my books here. I'm not sure where this came from. It might have been Dollar Tree. I'm not too sure. I'm basically gonna decoupage it, but I'm going in with heavy Mod Podge to make sure it adheres to the book. So I've never done this before, so here you see me cutting, trying to keep it attached to the book, but it ends up coming off. I had to go in pretty heavy with the Mod Podge, about 2 coats, in order for it to adhere to the book. Then I already had this watch pre-made. I'm not sure what mold it came off of. It was an IOD one. I'm just going to go ahead and glue it to the corner of my book. So for the sides of my book, I want to add the words "Love Spells." And I am going to use the hot glue gun. I've never done this before, but it actually came out pretty good, and it was fairly easy. So I go a little hot glue crazy in this video. I also decided that I wanted to add drops to the sides of the books. So you will see me do that next. I will let this completely dry, and then I will paint over them with some black paint. So I actually have forgot that I had gotten these little critters from Dollar Tree. I actually wanted to add a little spider to the top of the book here. I'm just going to go ahead and glue it down with some hot glue. And I just go over that with the same black paint just so it can all be cohesive. And as you can see here, I dropped it and I just let it just glue right there because the glue is really hot and I burned myself last week, so I'm a little bit traumatized. So I just let it drop right there and that's where it stayed. So I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing with the color Burnt Umber. I'm going to go over all my details, and once that dries, I'm going to go in with some gold paint from Bogart's. So once I get this all finished up, I do take this outside for a coat of clear spray paint to seal it all up, and that is basically it for this one. So here I have these empty amber color bottles that I had from last year. So I have a couple left over that I just want to get out of my stash. So I'm going to go ahead and use these Dollar Tree transfers, and I'm just going to go ahead and add them to my little jars. And these transfers work fairly easy. I'm just going to place them down and use my little tool here and go ahead and rub right over the transfer. And they actually come off fairly easy, being that it's glass. It doesn't take much effort. So I'm just going to go ahead and rub right over them, and then they come off pretty easy. And if for any reason it doesn't come off the transfer sheet, just put it back down and give it another little rub and it will come off. So I really do enjoy these little transfers from Dollar Tree. I feel like they work pretty good. They would make cute little tags as well, which I've done before. The only thing when you work with glass is just make sure that your surface is clean, and they work perfect. And again, just like with the mini bottles, I'm going to go ahead and add the hot glue drips to the top and paint them gold. And for the tops of my jar, I had these little clear beads that I got from the Goodwill bins. I'm just going to go ahead and glue them to the top of the jar. So I have this gold trim that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to go ahead and glue some around the little knob just to add a little detail to it and also secure the knob a little bit better. And that is basically it for this one. Let me know what you guys think. And that is it for today's video, guys. In the comments, let me know which one was your favorite. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and follow for more. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.